Hi everyone, it's Theodora and I'm here with audio engineer Ken Silber to talk about recording in the time of COVID-19. He is the founder of Silken Audio. He has studied audio engineering with Grammy Award-winning engineers and producers, and he's recorded all over the Boston area, including Jordan Hall, Marsh Chapel, and Harvard Sanders Theater. He is also a singer himself, which gives him a very distinct advantage when recording singers. Hi, Ken. Thank you so much for being here today. I really appreciate you taking the time to talk to me today.
No problem at all. Glad to do it.
So I want to talk about audio recording in COVID-19 times. It's changed a little bit. When I first contacted you, I wanted to talk about professional recording versus audio recording, but that's a little less applicable now. So do you have any tips to singers who are going to, say, buy a mic at home and do some self-recording, what they can think about?
Okay, so are they recording audio and video or just audio?
I'm going to make the assumption that it's both.
Okay, so most of what I've been observing for the last, month, 6 weeks or so since location recording basically shut down and will be shut down for quite a while. I don't know if you follow the ACDA, the American Choral Directors Association, had a webinar like a week ago or so. And they
Yeah.
talked about the science of live choirs, and it's not coming back until there's a vaccine, pretty much. So that's devastating for anybody who's in a chorus or runs a chorus, and for anybody like me who records choral concerts. Most of my freelance work was recording choral concerts. So we have to pivot when the times dictate. So audio and video, most of what I see being done are being done by people with their smartphones. Everybody has a smartphone pretty much, and the video capabilities of smartphones are very, very good. You just turn on YouTube. Anything recorded on YouTube the last few years, most of it is just done on iPhones. So for the video end, a smartphone recording is fine. Audio, it kind of depends. There are a number of microphones that are usable with, if not phones, then with computers, USB mics. The one that jumps out at me, the top of my head, is called the Blue Yeti. I know that a number of people who have kids that are applying for artist programs that have to now do video auditions are using the Blue Yeti mics and finding that they do a good job. A Zoom recorder, handheld Zoom recorder, they've been around forever, is fine. And I guess what people are doing is they'll record the video on the smartphone, and they'll get reference audio also through the phone, but they'll also record the audio separately, and then they'll hand that off to somebody to combine, because it'll make a big difference to have that audio dedicated recorder rather than just whatever the iPhone has in it, because it's not really made to record music.
Certainly, I'm sure you get a lot of saturation and not so beautiful sound. I am curious, when we are thinking, since we have to now do it on our own, when we are thinking about placing a mic like a Blue Yeti, what are some of the parameters? Should it be close to us, far from us?
Well, since I haven't actually done one of these, I would tell people to experiment. Make yourself a test recording, and then listen to it, and you can tell if it sounds like the mic is like in your mouth, then move it back. If it sounds like it's across the room and all you're hearing is the empty walls in your house bouncing back and forth, then you're going to move it closer. It's going to be in the shot, probably. Like I don't know what they look like. I mean, I've seen pictures online, but it's not a bad looking thing, and you can sort of pretend you're in a radio studio kind of thing. I would say put it, a few feet away from you to start, and just fool around with it.
So I did invest since in a Blue Yeti mic, and they're very cute. They're actually much bigger than you would think they are. They're about like this big, and they kind of look like a Mickey Mouse microphone. So at least you can feel like you're going to Disneyland or something.
Like the ears, or
Yeah. No, it's just like it looks very cartoonish. Is basically what it looks like to me, at least.
have you had a chance to try it out?
I did. I think it's pretty decent. I think it works better for voice than it does for piano. But I do think it is all about the placement,
Mm-hmm.
and it took me personally quite a while to like figure out what is a good placement. And I also am in a very echoey home, so I think that you can definitely hear the echo no matter how close it is to my face.
Well, that's something that can be worked on in post-production.
Okay, that's good.
The closer it is to you, the less echo will be apparent because of the way the sound works. You have more direct sound, less of the reverberant sound. The direct sound's louder, and so you don't hear as much of the reverberant because the direct sound is sort of drowning it out.
Okay, interesting. I've heard back from some friends that it doesn't pick out the warmth necessarily of certain sounds. Is that something that you can fix in post, or not really?
It's certainly possible to use EQ to make a recording sound warmer. But again, it's not going to. There's no substitute for a professional high pro audio mic through a preamp, through all the stuff that I bring to gigs. Okay. But in this day and age, that's really not possible. So
because audio is so important, and it's really important to think about mic placement, for example, are there other things besides the placement of the mic that somebody should think about when they're recording themselves?
If you're limiting yourself to what you can do with a computer, then the limits of those types of equipment are going to pretty much put a cap on how good it can sound just in terms of the raw recording. But any recording can be made better in post-production, to put it into Pro Tools or Digital Performer or whatever your workstation of choice is, and you can work with the sound as if just like any other recording you make.
What is a preamp? Because I have no
Okay, not to get into electrical engineering, but a microphone records very, very quietly. I mean, it's a diaphragm inside the microphone itself vibrating because of the air that's hitting it, and if it's a condenser mic, that it converts that into electrical impulse that's very, very small, and a preamp just amplifies it to a line level where you can hear it.
Okay.
It's just adding gain. It's just adding level to it.
Okay. So speaking of gain, do you have recommendations for classical singers on gain specifically?
Do a practice recording and make sure you don't get any closer than 3 to 6 dB above the maximum whatever your recording device. You're using a digital recording device, so they have a maximum, and when you hit that, you get distortion, and it's a hard wall. You can get right up to it, and it's fine. You go a tiny little bit over, and it's pops and clicks, and it's called clipping because it sounds like the waveforms are literally clipped off the tops of them.
Okay, I think that's very good to know. I do want to stress to everybody listening how important professional recording is, because people do remember bad quality, and from the people that I have spoken to, it is something they remember and they do pay attention to. So I recommend, if you are going to record yourself, you send it to somebody. Is there a best practice on how to send a clip to you?
A WAV file, uncompressed audio, no MP3s. Always record, if you can, an uncompressed WAV file, which is again where the Zoom recorder comes in, because it has SD cards that can hold as much file space as you need, whereas your 32 gigabyte iPhone might run out of space. I don't know. I don't even know if iPhones can record full size WAV files or not. I don't know what they do. They record audio video combined files. So if you're doing a dedicated audio file, full size audio, PCM, there's a lot of different names for it. And if you can, there's 24-bit and 16-bit, and that is just a measure of the possible level differences between the loudest and smallest sound. 24-bit is one whole set of bits more of range. So in some ways, it's kind of like twice as much range. I think it might be more than that, but you can really hear the difference between 16 and 24-bit.
Okay.
So that's the setting on the Zoom recorder. You can just set it to whatever type of recording you want to make.
So I do have a Blue Yeti and I've been experimenting with it. And I know that in some of the editing programs, they ask for a sample rate, which isn't 12 or 16. They're like much higher numbers.
Yeah, no, 44.1 or 48.
Okay.
Those are the minimum for pro audio.
Okay.
44.1 there's filtering involved with digital audio that has to be more than twice as many hertz as the limit of human hearing, which is 20,000.
Okay.
So 44.1 is just over twice 20,000, and 48 is just a little higher. They're not really that different. And then you can go to multiples of that, 88.2, 96,000, but you don't really need any of that for your own. That's when you're getting into the pro audio sessions that we used to do before the pandemic.
Okay.
Where you can record at higher sample rates, because you're collecting more data. So there's more information in your recording. So, it can't help but contain more stuff.
Okay.
But yeah, no, 44.1 is the minimum.
Okay, great. And so should you just always go for the maximum or not necessarily?
Well, you're trading off file size. So if you go above 44.1 to 88.2 or to 96, your files are twice as big, and full uncompressed audio is already quite large. 10 megabytes a minute. So a 1 hour file is 600 megabytes, and that's already too big to attach to an email. Like already you're using Dropbox or one of those services to get them back and forth. So you don't really need to make them any bigger than that. But that's the trade-off.
For those out there that can't afford an audio engineer right now, do you have any basic advice on editing their own files, clips?
Well, you want to make a nice fade up at the beginning. And, every program has a different way of creating fades. And it's just a matter of, it's usually just dragging a cursor from the start of the fade to where you want the fade to be all the way up. And, to start a recording, maybe 2 seconds up, just like a nice gradual fade up. And then a fade down at the end. I'm used to fading out applause, but, we're in the applause-free era right now. So you just sort of I fade applause out over 10 seconds or something. I mean, the most important thing is to just sort of listen to recordings and try to emulate them. But to get into the finer points of editing it's not really the forum for that. There's lots of stuff on YouTube about how to edit. I taught myself how to edit by taking a series of choral recordings for a group I had been in, where the director just gave me the raw files and said, go ahead and listen to these and put the best takes together that you think. And so I did that for a summer, and it was very instructive. It was free. He didn't pay me to do it, but I got a lot out of it. He got a lot of it. So if you're going to do your own editing, all the programs on some level are all doing the same thing. So if you get one that you're comfortable with, that can do what you want it to, that's cheap. I mean, there's a bunch of programs that run the gamut in cost and quality. And I mean, there's plenty of good free ones out there for, for the musician that's, editing themselves, where it's just one channel, then maybe a channel, maybe with a piano that you had somebody record and you're combining them. But, that kind of thing is pretty simple. And so any of the programs should be able to do what you want them to do. And it's just a matter of practice.
So obviously it's going to range according to where you are located, but is there a sort of baseline price that a singer should expect from an audio engineer?
I mean, you can go anywhere from 50 to 150, really. Like people that have been doing this for a very long time and are very fast and, have a lot of, they might have Grammys, they might have a lot of professional credits, can charge more. If somebody is, coming out of school and trying to something, you might start at around 50, $45 an hour, $50 an hour. And I mean, there's also the issue of charging what somebody can pay. Like I have my rates that are what I've established, but you know, every client is potentially a situation for, you know, a compromise. It's just, you know, sliding scales. And I mean, it's also a matter of, and I sort of learned this in a business setting, charging more per hour and charging fewer hours versus, you know, you could have a $45 an hour rate and, you know, spend a lot of time on it, and you're not saving anybody any money by doing that. Anyway, I'm not sure how that follows really.
No, I think that's very true. I agree with that statement. I am curious, when singers are doing their due diligence to find an audio engineer, obviously I am recommending you to everyone, but if they want to find somebody, what should they be looking for?
A website with sound samples on it. Word of mouth. I get most of my business from word of mouth. So they're a singer, they have friends who are musicians. Ask your friends who you used. Were you happy with them? Were they easy to deal with? Were you happy with the result? You know, it's just like finding anything else. There's no Angie's List for recording engineers, unfortunately, but you know, word of mouth has worked for me, so that's what I would suggest people do.
Okay, so I'm gonna make a hard left now and talk about something completely different, which is taxes. Luckily, it's been pushed a little bit, but I want to.
Yeah, you have an extra couple months this year, and as well you should, everybody.
Yes.
I've been doing my own as a sole proprietor since I started the company, and I remember watching the video of our first pass and talking about how I sort of got locked into that and how it's the right solution for me. I don't think it's the right solution for everybody now. Now that I think about it, it's the fact that you know your business very well, and I think I made that point that I know my business better than anybody. But a good accountant that concentrates in working with self-employed artists is going to know the self-employed artist business in general better than any individual. And so again, using word of mouth, if you find that a colleague, a friend that is in your situation has somebody that they love to work with, you should maybe try them out if you don't want to do it yourself. But keeping good records, I think I said this the last time, of everything you spend, because when you're sitting down there and looking at it, if you're just starting your business out and you're single-mindedly trying to build it, pretty much everything you're doing is somehow related to that business. So if you have the records from your credit card receipts or the year-end summaries that I think I mentioned that you get, your mileage, if you're driving around, which is not such of an issue now, but hopefully in the future it will be again. Keep a record in the car of the miles you drove for this or that gig. Add them all up. You get paid by the mile by the government for using your car for work. You also get paid for the maintenance, you know, the oil changes, the tires, and you can, whichever way works out to give you a better benefit, you can choose that way to do it. So if you have an old beater car that, you know, goes into the shop a lot, you know, save those repair bills, because you can just write them all off. And the way that the system works for self-employed people, the rate that you pay on your self-employed income is quite high compared to income from a job, because instead of having Social Security and Medicare and those withholdings taken out of both yours and your employer's ends, it's all taken out of your end. So you're paying twice as much, which means that for every dollar you deduct, you're saving twice as much. And so the deductions add up fast.
Well, awesome. Thank you so much. So if you're looking for someone right now to mix your stuff, you know who to contact. You can visit his website, www.silkenaudio.com. I'm Theodora, and we've been in the wings with Ken Silber. Join us next week as we talk with Justin Warner about the manager-singer relationship and what he looks for in a singer he wants to put on his roster. I hope you liked this video. If you did, please subscribe to my channel. And if you have questions you'd like me to ask in the future, please feel free to leave them in the comments below. I hope you can join us next week.